Hi, everyone. Welcome to remote instruction in and out of the recorder classroom. My name is Rina Sklar, and I'm a kindergarten through fourth grade general music teacher from Hamilton Primary School in the Bridgewater-Raritan Regional School District. If you have a recorder today, it would be best for you to use it. I believe that this will show up as a mirror image, so I put my left hand on top bracelet on my left wrist just to show you that this is supposed to be my left hand. If you cannot see any part of this presentation or want to revisit any of the information today, you can email info@macypublishing.com to request a copy. I realize my little self in the corner may block some of the text. So this year, we're all facing three options for our recorder classroom. There's the possibility of regular classroom instruction with all students present and no restrictions. There's the possibility of hybrid instruction, which is what I'm doing right now, which has a partial return to the classroom with some virtual only instruction. And for most of us, hopefully, the partial instruction in person is also masked. So that adds an extra level of complexity to recorder instruction. And the third option is virtual instruction only. So I'm really happy that the Be a Recorder Star curriculum that I've been using works in all three of these scenarios. So not only is it possible to teach recorder remotely, it's actually easy to do. So a lot of what I do is based on the idea of blended learning. Blended learning has three steps. There's the part that is away from home, either in a school building or synchronously teaching through a virtual means. There's the part that's online, which is done independently, so it's asynchronous. And then there's the idea that the students are working along a learning path. I'm going to go into this a little bit more later in the presentation. So the first part is classroom instruction. The Be a Recorder Star curriculum is ideal for teaching recorder in the classroom because all you need is a device to project the website and you need internet access. I was already using the printed version of the book, so I was very familiar with the curriculum, but the features that I found here completely changed my teaching. Things that you should have. Some way of having joint focus for classroom learning. If you have a laser pointer for your classroom, it is ideal. All the students are looking in one place, and you know exactly where they are at all times. If you are doing synchronous virtual classroom learning, you can share your screen and use your mouse pointer in the same way. Students are motivated by using computers. Yes, even now, they're still encouraged and excited to use computer tools to learn. There are embedded audio tracks with variable speeds. I wrote that this is the best thing ever, and it really is. It's the way to get students to practice songs 100 times and also just to get them motivated to want to play. There are assessments that can be sent through email, which you'll see are used a lot in the part 2 part of blended learning, the online instruction. There's historical information on songs and composers that's easily accessible, and you can continue learning everything that you learn in the classroom, again, virtual or in person, through students accessing a dedicated website. There's no personal information, no signups. So it is a way for you to be able to learn in any situation and for you to teach in any situation, which, as we know, we don't know what our learning situation and teaching situation will be in the following weeks. So this is great for everything. So why did I pick the Be a Recorder Star curriculum? Well, there's a very detailed sequence for beginners. One thing that I love is teaching the steps in between test songs, and I think that the sequence really helps with that. There are activities to work on note reading, rhythm reading, fingering techniques, air control, and creativity and composition, which if you've taken a look at the new New Jersey standards and the national standards, there's a huge emphasis placed on the idea of create. And if you've wondered how to do that with recorder, it's actually much easier than you would expect. There are great accompaniment tracks for students to practice with and bright illustrations and animations that my kids love. And there's also a motivational badge system to get students engaged in practicing. And there are also great pieces for performances and showcases. I know I'm not really doing any of those right now, but they do exist. And learning can be self-guided, which I think is the most important part for today's session. So the online instruction. The key to online instruction is that students can access and learn with some element of control over time, place, path, or pace. This is different than using an online tool to complete work. So in this context, I'm referring to asynchronous instruction for online learning, not the in the classroom learning. What do you need for this? Well, if you go to www.bearecorderstar.com, you could put this code in. I would recommend screenshotting this page because everyone who's attending this session today will get a 1-month trial of being able to test out this program so you can see it. If you would like to try it with your students, just contact Macy Publishing Company. They're really happy to provide you with the trial code so your students can also access this dedicated website during the trial period. So when I begin recorder instruction, I'm always starting with a warm-up, and especially teaching through a screen like I've started off this year and like I do for some of my classes. Having this physical warm-up has really helped. So I'm going to demonstrate some of this for you. I got this warm-up this past summer from Mona Mann, who teaches at the University of St. Thomas. So that's where this came from. So I have students pick a number between 1 and 6, and then whatever number they pick, I do my warm-up. Spaghetti arms first. 1, 2, 3. I'm just picking 3. Macaroni elbows. 1, 2, 3. Swan dives, where you reach up, dive down. 1, 2, 3. And then finger taps. Finger taps are, I always start with the left hand. So I have them show me that they have their left hand up and then open their hand and then finger taps. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Other hand. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Following that is fish lips or hamster nipples, which is just keeping that relaxed mouth shape. So I sometimes will have them do this to loosen things up and then do some fish lips or hamster nibbles like they're nibbling at a water bottle to just try and keep that loose jaw. And also not getting them to do this with their lips or this with their lips. So trying to keep it loose. And then maybe some articulations or breathing exercises. There are ones that we always use. You can use a tissue or the idea of a candle. You can have them echo you, do, 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 or whatever it is that you usually choose. So that's how I begin my class. Considerations for virtual instruction. When you're working with students in a completely virtual landscape, you can still use joint focus, as I mentioned before, through screen share and have all of your students on mute. You can have students unmute to play sections or notes for you to work on individual skills, especially when I'm teaching B, A, and G. I make sure that they have the correct hand on top, their fingering's correct. A lot of times I'll have them pinch at the bottom for a more secure hold to start, and I'll have them echo me one at a time so that I can hear what's happening with them and I can help make some corrections to get a better sound. It is an excellent idea to give students time to practice independently. One way that you could do this is by having everybody on mute and practice, and then you can have them unmute. But another way is by utilizing breakout rooms. So you can have individual breakout rooms, send every student to a breakout room by themselves, and then pop into the rooms, and you can work with students one-on-one. If you're not sure that students would be working independently, you can also break them up into little duet groups and have 2 students in each room, and they play for each other and try and help each other. The problem with this is depending on your students, and you know your students, you can't monitor if there's any sort of disagreement that happens in the room unless you pop in. So one way to counter this is start off by just popping in and out of each room pretty quickly once you send them to the room so that they know that you can show up at any time. Something else that you can do for virtual instruction is you can spend more time composing and improvising on rhythmic exercises and give students the opportunity to create. Again, those are our new standards, create. One of my favorite new ideas that I've encountered for hybrid instruction is the idea of using rubber chickens. Yep. Rubber chickens to be able to play recorders in the classroom while masked. In my school, we're not even allowed to sing if we are in person. And so I was sort of stalled on recorder instruction that was happening live because I wasn't able to get my students that were in person and myself as well, because I was there and masked, to be allowed to play recorders. And I just didn't like the idea of having them practice the fingerings by themselves. Well, this idea came from the Music Educators Creating Online Learning Facebook group from Sarah Casados, and it was inspired by Kate Bright. And what it is it's a headless chicken So this becomes a bellows, and you just put the chicken on the top of the recorder, right, just over the mouthpiece of it, and tip it back a little. I'm using a 13-inch chicken. I believe the 12.6-inch ones will actually fit perfectly over, but this is the one that I was able to find for the cheapest amount of money. And so that's what I'm using. And tip it back, and then you can have the notes played. So let's get it right. It's hard to do while holding it up. I would have students rest it on a table or their leg to be able to do it. It gives much more secure thing, but I want to show you. So yes, you can have longer notes, shorter notes. It actually helps with the idea of how much air goes into the recorder before it squeaks. So if you do it too hard, you're going to get a squeaky G. You have to make sure that you do it softly and smoothly, and then you can translate that to when you're practicing at home. Remember that soft and smooth air. So the rubber chicken, this is actually beginning in my classrooms. I just received all of my rubber chickens, and my students are extremely excited. So it's actually beginning next week. And now the Be a Recorder Star interactive book. Get your recorders ready. This is the fun part. So the first thing that I do when I'm doing recorder instruction is I actually don't begin with the book. I begin with some exercises where I get them to sing and then to shut off their voice. So this is my voice on, voice off, to be able to practice getting a proper airflow for the recorder. I don't like using the word blow when I'm talking about recorder, though of course sometimes I say it accidentally, but I like saying singing with your voice shut off. So I'll take a simple song that they know. I'll use Row, Row, Row Your Boat right now. And first I'll sing it on do with my voice turned on. Do, 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 do. Then I'll sing it with my voice shut off. And then practice going back and forth between voice on, voice off. Of course, I'm having my students echo this as well. The voice on, voice off gets them to actually keep singing with their voice shut off. So it might look like this. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. So this gets the student really using their proper tonguing and be able to make sounds. Then, without even worrying about which hand is on top for the recorder, this is something else that I got from Mona Man. If you think of your bottom lip as a pillow and your top lip as a blanket, so I can show in the screen, if I'm doing it virtually, the curve of the recorder and tell it to rest its head on the pillow, and then to put the blanket gently on top, and think of those little fish lips, and try singing with your voice shut off. And you can listen to students individually to see if they're getting it, or you can go right into working on teaching them actual pitches. But that's always my first step with the recorder itself. So once we have that, then we go over, we have our fingers. I do right hand pinchy pinch for my starting students, and then my left hand back to those finger taps. So I call this finger 0, this finger 1, finger 2, finger 3. Pinky never gets to play recorder on the left hand. Sorry, Pinky. So I take that thumb and put it over the hole. One advantage of teaching remotely, teaching through a virtual setting, is you can do a lot of close-ups that students might not be able to otherwise see. I also talk about the fingers covering the holes like you're parking a car. This I got from ORF Level 1. So parking the car, you park a car over the spot. You don't park a car like this. Students will usually giggle at that. So I then will also show you're parking your fingers over the holes. They don't nosedive in. So I will keep reinforcing that idea. So finger 0, let's do we did 3 before. So 1, 2, 3. Finger 1, 1, 2, 3. finger 2, 1, 2, 3, finger 3, 1, 2, 3. And just like the warm-up, I will do this in every class because I want them to start hearing when they cover the holes properly. It's how you really know that they're covering those holes to get the air properly. So I will do that before I even teach the first note. And then we'll take a look at the recorder that you see here on page 4, the 0, 1, and we'll talk about it being B. We've already learned the notes on the staff, though they haven't used them with a recorder yet, so we can revisit that. And we've also been practicing rhythms. So then you could start having them try, they could go B, 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 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, and then go right into playing, which you can use the mouse to follow along, just like it means I can't do it 2 hands, but this is having the students follow with us. 1, 2, here they go. And so you can practice the basic skills of B, A, and G through that. The first piece that they have that use all 3 pieces all 3 pitches have rest in between. There's an entire measure of rest in between. So again, it's following the same sequence, the same steps that they use, but now they're putting it all together. So they can take the time during the rest to cover the holes, and you can demonstrate it, or you can have them follow along with your bouncing mouse. Oh, I can't change the page. My little camera is in the way, so I'm going to do it this way. Rhythm charts. These are my favorite. So rhythm charts are the opportunity for joint focus without you having to use your mouse to do it. There's no audio track for this. It is just rhythm. There's no pitch. So you can have all your students on mute and just play G. You can have them play A. You can have them play B. Or you can start talking about harmony, and you can have them choose B or G for a consonant harmony, B or A for a dissonant harmony, or A or G. And then, just for fun, you can have 2 students unmute. You check that you can hear whatever pitch they're supposed to play, and you could have them play together. Now, of course, they're not going to be playing at the same time, but they're still following the bouncing star. So they are playing the timing correctly. They're just not going to sound like they're playing with each other because of visual digital delay that you get when you're doing things virtually. But you can get enough where the notes will overlap so that the rest of the class can hear a consonant harmony or a dissonant harmony. So let's do that right now. Now, we're obviously not going to hear it, but choose your pitch. You can do B, A, or G, and let's play rhythm chart number 1. Then number 2, again, focusing on rests for this exercise. And then number 4 is the challenge. So let's do number 4. Pick a pitch, any pitch. Now, I mentioned about creating. You can have students create their own melodies. Usually, I will give a guideline. For example, you must begin and end on G. Then I'll send a student to an individual breakout room, or I will just have them work while they're all together but on mute, and they can compose their own melody. And then we can still play everybody's unique melody all together because everybody is on mute. And then students can unmute to demonstrate their composition. They can also then be given a Flipgrid link, which I will talk about Flipgrid a little bit more right after this, and they can record their composition and send it to you for you to see. So let's do that. Take a couple of seconds. I'm not sure if there's a pause capability to this presentation. If there was, then you can just pause and do it. But I'm going to just give you a tiny bit of time to figure out your own melody. And again, you can play around and see what it sounds like. I would have the students do the same. You know, I would give the students a lot more time than that, but since we're all teachers and it's not really interesting listening to silence, I thought that's enough time. So let's perform our melodies all together. Begin and end on G was the only rule. The other advantage of having them compose like this before they're doing anything else is they start familiarizing themselves with how to go from B to A to G, and sometimes B to G. Once you've done that, then of course there are some exercises where we can learn some half notes and whole notes, B's and A's. And then go to page 6, there are G's. They like discussing what's going on with the giraffe. Air control, a wonderful challenge for them where you can see how long you can hold a note. And so they can time themselves on it playing, and the score gets recorded. Now the score will vanish as soon as you leave this page. So I always tell them, write it down in pencil somewhere, and they will challenge themselves, not each other, to beat their own score for air control. So they love that game. And then of course, hot cross buns. Everybody's played hot cross buns. If you are a person who no longer wants to play hot cross buns, I fully understand that. And there are some other songs that you could definitely use instead or in addition to. So let's go to that right now. This is my favorite page in the beginning part of this book. I talked about how important a learning sequence was to me. And I think that this page exemplifies this beautifully. So when I get to this, I will have the students working with me. We will read, again, they are on mute. We will read it on rhythms if you use Tas and TTs, or Pies and Cherries. If you've ever seen that book, I love Pies and Cherries, and those are yums, which one of my fourth graders very innovatively, yum, they added this to show that it's a sound that actually lasts instead of this where you only hear the sound at the beginning. I thought that was very smart. Leave it to the kids to come up with great new ideas. And so they practice this G to A, going back and forth, all and repeat it. Then the same exact exercise, A to B, and they repeat it. And then now it changes. We can discuss about things where they can visually identify what's different. They can identify things that are different in the pattern, things that their fingers will have to do, especially, and you can do it going on the repeat, A to A again, but here it happens a lot more. The G remains. And so you can point out these little obstacles to the kids, or they can point them out themselves before you play it. And here they're going to practice G to B. After that is the song Au clair de la lune, which uses all of these. Take a look. It's the exact same rhythm as numbers 1 and 2, and it uses all the skills that the students have worked on. So you have the G to A to B, and G to B, all here. So this is another great starting song if you want to skip hot cross buns, or even if you don't. And so let's do Au clair de la lune all together. I don't know if there's any delay between my video and the sound, so I'm just going to do the fingering like I would, and I'm only doing it one-handed so that I can use my mouse, which hopefully you can see, to point at the notes as joint focus.
Page 7, Au clair de la lune. 1, 2, ready, play.
Earlier, I mentioned that variable speeds to the audio is my favorite thing, and it is my students' favorite thing as well. You can make the tempo faster or slower for any of the audio recordings in the book. And this is how you get students to practice the same song a million times, because faster, faster, slower, slower. You could do it as a class or do what I do and assign them homework saying you have to play this song at 3 different tempos. So I'm going to do something I don't do with my students, which is change the tempo while we're in the middle of the song. Obviously, it makes more sense to pick a tempo at the beginning. Otherwise, they're not going to get that sense of steady beat, which is what we want them to be developing alongside all these other skills. So,
Page 7. A Claire de la Lune. 1, 2, ready, play.
and just to start it off, if you want them to laugh, have them speak fast or slow.
A Claire de la Lune.
Or here's how you reset it, the little red button. It's so slow that it doesn't even start right away.
Page 7.
So if you think you're losing focus in your class and your students aren't really focused, pull out one of these and make it go really slow or really fast. You'll get them right back. So Rolling Merrily has the opportunity for students working on their own, using their own music to place the notes where they think it goes, and they can screenshot this and send it to you. Look at some others. Usually there's a button that you can press that just says next, but my video is in the way. Rhythm chart 2. Now we're adding a new skill. We're adding taking a breath at an assigned place. Go to Sleep is what I use as my second testing song. Again, it uses G-A-B instead of B-A-G, but then there's a change in the pattern. When I teach this, I break it down by phrase. We identify both through listening and also looking at it that measures 1 and 2 are the A phrase, 3 and 4, B phrase, then we have the A again, and then a C. And then I teach the song out of order. I usually start with the B phrase and then work on the A phrase next and put it together, or work on the C phrase next. I like teaching my students, whether in person or virtually, that you don't always have to start at the beginning and end at the end. A lot of times what happens is students become really good at the first 2 measures of a song and not so good at the rest. So I like pulling out the hardest part of the song first. And if you break down pieces by phrase, it's a lot easier for them to manage, smaller chunks to learn. And also it's easier to identify the trickiest section and work on that first. This is one of my favorites to do at the beginning of the year because it's extremely accessible to beginning players. You could actually do this song probably on your first day of virtual or in-person recorder instruction. It is an excerpt from Beethoven's 7th Symphony. I always play them a piece of the real symphony full orchestra. This is in a different key, but they will hear the melody. I usually do it either right before or right after I play this for them. And there's information. Anytime you see this little I, there's information about the composer or the piece of music. And so you can read that together, have them read it independently. In this piece, the entire first line is B, as you can see. And so it's so satisfying for students to be able to just play that first line and know that they're playing the music of Beethoven. And I will usually begin with just the first line, and then we'll work on the second line in pieces because it is trickier. It uses other pitches. So let's just play this one together because it's a great one.
Page 8.
I'm not going to play it.
From Symphony Number 7. 1, 2, ready, play.
great piece. And as the book goes on, it goes through the skills of first B, A, and then G, and then adds high C next. And what's wrong with the kitty? Again, analyzing things that they see, they can practice C. And now this is what originally was what convinced me to go with the Be a Recorder Star curriculum in the first place. I attended a session taught by Ed Sueda himself at NJMEA many, many years ago. And I was using another book with my students at the time for recorder. And that book went from C to B. That was when they first introduced C. You had to go from C to B. And my students had a really hard time. And it was hard for me to get even, certain classes to be able to do that, to be able to advance farther. Well, Mr. Sueda said, oh, I realized C to B is really difficult. So instead, I have students start with C to A. This way they learn C, the first note, where you're not adding fingers. You actually have to lift up the first finger, and then they're just putting it down. C to A is easy for them to do. And so there are pieces that first practice C to A as a skill. So now they're confident on C before they have to go C to B. And this is a great performance song for them, March of the Recorders. And here's a little information about Ed Sueda. So this book keeps going all the way through low C, F sharp, and F natural. So it's up to you how far you want to take it with your students. Usually my third graders make it through B, A, G, and maybe C, depending on the year. This year is, of course, a little different because there was also a cutoff on what they learned last year. But that does lead me to the advantage of the fact that I can use chickens to be able to do G, A, B, and C. Unfortunately, chickens will not work if you're using left-hand notes unless you figure out how to, and someone might be able to play it that way. So for this year, my third graders are going to be doing B, A, G, and C if they get that far. And my fourth graders, who also continue with recorder, will be working on other notes, but they're going to be doing it mostly at home independently. So they've learned the basic skills. We're going to be reviewing things using our G, A, B, and C. And we're going to be doing more with the rhythm charts that get more advanced as it goes through. And we will also be doing a lot more with those compositions for them to show me what they're learning. Then they can play those other notes at home. I will have videos for them through Flipgrid, which I will talk a little bit more about in a little bit. One other thing to show you before we move on is the review pages that are available. These can be emailed to you so students can fill out what they think. Obviously, it shows what it is because I have filled this out before, but they can show you the fingering by filling in the holes, by clicking on it. There's a click and drag for whole notes, half notes, quarter notes. There's rhythm math. They put your name, your email, their name, their email. Once again, nothing is saved in this program. So once that email is sent, if they go to another page, all of their answers are wiped. All of the information is wiped from this screen. So that's why they put their email there and they put your email there and they send it to you. And then you have an assessment, which I will also talk about later. I also wanted to show you a few other things. For example, there are different meters that are addressed throughout this book. We use 3/4, 4/4, and 2/4 in it. And so here's another one of our lovely rhythm charts that, again, you could use for composition. You could use for improvisation. You can have them just make up what pitches they're playing as they go along using the rhythmic structure of the rhythm charts. You can have them practice the rhythms. Most of the recorders, they come with their cleaning rod, especially if you're using the ones that you could get from Macy, the Kingsley color recorders. They have a cleaning rod that they could tap along with. And this page is just a great one to show because it's one that you can get to and use even if you don't get past our G, A, B, and C. So if you get through G, A, B, and C and you're still doing in-class instruction and needing to use chickens, you can come to this page and you can work on songs in another meter because all of the examples here, this one is just BAG and this one has BAG and C, I think. Yes, C. And this one as well. And there's also, they talk about pickups. You do learn other musical skills throughout the book. Pickups, first ending, second ending, all sorts of things. So let's take a look. Another review page that's there. I believe there are 3 of them, maybe, in the whole book. So here's another fun one for your students that you can do if you're still working on B, A, G, and C, but this one doesn't have C. The Confused Composer. Let's just play it.
Page
Once
19,
again, I won't play it. I
The
will just
Confused
use the pointer.
Composer. 1, 2, ready, play.
What is this song? Well, let's play it backwards and find out.
Now play The Confused Composer backwards. 1, 2, ready, play.
That's always a fun one, and the kids are so excited when they figure it out, which they do long before you play or even they play the other track. I'm going to show you on page 20 in a minute another song that you could use if you end up having to do some form of performance and you want something a little more sophisticated than perhaps having a student play just by themselves or in unison. If you want to take your hand at trying a virtual concert of some sort, you can take the duet that's on page 20. It is a wonderful duet. And so here's a really quick version that I did myself today.
Page 20, Winter Goodbye. 1, ready, play.
Or a cappella.
Ready, start.
Word of advice, something I didn't do on those is I didn't use headphones to make the second recording, and you should always do that. For some reason, my videos disappeared, but this is the song Winter Goodbye that I was talking about. I wanted to end with a grand finale of this page. Oh, there I am. And so on page 26 is excerpt from Symphony Number 9, which is, of course, Beethoven, Ninth Symphony. There's a missing G that you can't see because of my camera, which is back. But I thought this would be fun to play with the chicken. So I'm going to do my best with the chicken for this. I hope you play along. I hope you enjoyed this. Then we're going to go back to talking about Flipgrid.
Page 26, excerpt from Symphony Number 9.
I'm replacing the low D with high D.
1, 2, ready, play.
And that's that. Along with the Be a Recorder Star interactive book, I use Flipgrid to be able to demonstrate, teach, and assess my students in an online virtual manner. So again, this is the asynchronous instruction, though you're welcome to use it synchronously as well. But it is a free program for students and teachers. It's approved by most school districts, so students just sign in with their school email addresses, and you don't need to worry about anyone from the outside getting access to your students' information or their videos, though you can create a guest mode on Flipgrid. So if you have some wonderful student performances and you wanted to create a quick concert or a talent show, you can actually do that. I set everything in my Flipgrid to be moderated, so only I can see the videos. This makes it so that my students don't need to worry about others viewing and judging how they play. So there's much more of a comfort level involved. Now I can unmoderate, I guess you make it active and then all students can see, but I always ask my students before I do that because I want to make sure that they are comfortable with their video being seen by their classmates. Flipgrid is a great tool. You can create a grid, which is a page for each class or each grade level or the whole school, depending on what works best for you. And then you can create topics for each class or song. Students will record their video to whatever that appropriate topic is, and you could assign them directly so they don't end up in the wrong place. However, if they do, and it sometimes happens, you can easily move a video from one topic to another. Create a prompt video showing whatever skills you would like the students to do. And you can give hints or tips and tricks on areas of focus for any recorder music. Again, set the topic to video moderation to make sure that only you can view student videos. You can design rubrics for recorder instruction. They have a custom rubric setting where you could design your own. They have some preset ones, but for me, it doesn't work with recorder. I usually use a 16-point recorder system, but to make it simple on Flipgrid, I narrowed it down to a 4-point system. So the students will get a score of 1, 2, 3, or 4. You can also give feedback. So if your student gets a 3, you can say, well, this is why you got a 3. You can get a 4 by doing this. But you can also demonstrate. You can record a feedback video. And it's all with the click of a button. So there's no extra steps needed. You could do it directly in the program. You can easily copy the Flipgrid code and put it on your Google Classroom, or now you can assign it directly. You can actually import your Google Classrooms if you use Google. If you're using another system, then copy and pasting the flip code onto that classroom is the best way to go. And you can even see what your students see. So you just have to click view as student or just click the code itself and you will see what your students are able to see, which is really neat. So with Flipgrid, your students can record themselves right there, or they can have recorded a video separately and upload it. In my district, students are very comfortable with Flipgrid because all of the classes utilize Flipgrid and actually have for a few years, so it was not a big shock to them. But it does take a little bit of instruction if it's the first time. You just demonstrate, do a screen share, and show them how to access Flipgrid and how to record a video. And you can record one right there in front of them using the view as student so they can see exactly what it is that they'll see. You could send the scores and the feedback through email. Students can have fun using stickers and filters while creating videos. Just make sure you tell them what is allowed. For example, I have no stickers covering your fingers or your face so that I can see their fingers. And they also have to make sure that I can see the top part of their recorder if we're doing BAG, or their whole recorder if we're doing more, and that I have to be able to see their face. You can see videos from classmates that the teacher, myself, or you have chosen to share. And you can record up to 10 minutes. So you can do a 15-second recording. You can set it. You don't want a student going on for 10 minutes, but you can set 1.5 minutes for an assignment or 20 seconds. And the student has to stay to that timing. And you don't need to worry about file size being too large or taking up too much hard drive space. Everything is located on Flipgrid and you don't need to manage it at all. You can download videos though. So if you wanted to take something off of Flipgrid to put into a presentation or something, you can. There are lots of great options with Flipgrid. Before I get on with part 3 of the learning path, I wanted to just show you a little bit of Flipgrid that I've been talking about. So here I have my different groups. These groups are the grids that you create, and I have them all active. And here is my current grid for third grade, and I have different classes listed. This little hand right here shows me that I have the topic moderated, which is what I will be talking about soon, about not letting students see each other's videos. Here is one of my classes, and here is one of my video prompts. So here's my video prompt for you.
There are two ways that you can test for your songs. You can play just the recorder. Make sure that I can see your hand. Make sure it's left hand on top and that your right hand is on the recorder somewhere. Or you can play using the accompaniment from the Be a Recorder Star book. To do that, you just open up the tab with the accompaniment while you're recording, or wait until you have it set and then press record. You go to the song, you press play, and it will record
The song
the
you will
sound.
play is Hot Cross Buns on page 6. Get ready to play page 6, Hot Cross Buns. 1, 2, ready, play.
I think you get the idea.
So that's my prompt for this, and I have a listing of the test songs for the year for this class, if they get that far, if they are motivated to move on their own pace. So I'm going to open up one other so that you can see how we can respond to things, which I will also talk about soon. So here, this is just me leaving a video. And I wanted to just show you the feedback. So here I've created a rubric, recorder score, 3 and 4 earns it. You need 1 needs more practice, 2 not ready yet, 2 good try, practice again, 3 good job, 4 fantastic. And then I can include private comments here, or I can record feedback. I'm doing actually another session on using Flipgrid for recorder, but I wanted to give you this little bit of a summary. So if you record feedback, you do need to make sure you type something as well, so that you can email the feedback. That's really important. So the final part of blended learning is using a path, having students take their own path. So how are they able to do this, and how are you able to keep track? And the magic word is assessment. So while I will do direct instruction with my students, either with chickens or online as you see me now, and I will do the basics of the main testing songs, or I will go through a sequence that I want them to practice, but students at home are able to advance at their own pace. So they keep pace with the class, but they can go beyond it. And there are ways for you to keep track through Flipgrid. They could submit videos for you to assess their learning, but there are also other things that the students can do. You might remember I showed you the rhythm charts where you follow the bouncing star with the tempo controls. You can have composition assignments. You can do it online. You can have them screenshot, they can draw, if there's a drawing tool on their computer, they can draw the pitches that they would want to play over the rhythm charts, or they can write it down on a piece of paper and take a picture, or they could record their composition on Flipgrid. That is a wonderful way to get them to create, to have records of it for report cards and such, but also to allow your students to perform things that they're proud of. The animations that are exciting for students, I use those as exit tickets sometimes, because there's one like, what is the cat doing wrong? Oh, well, the cat has the right hand on top. So you can sort of check for understanding through having them look at the animations. There are air control challenges where students can email their best times for air control. I always make sure they know that they are challenging themselves, and their job is to beat their own score and not compare it to anybody else. The audio tracks, which I showed you, where you can have students record themselves using the audio. If they have a separate tab open, they can press play, go back to Flipgrid and record, or press record and then go to Be a Recorder Star and press play. And you can have the student play along with the recording. They can also change the tempo. As we discussed, that is their favorite thing ever. And so students can work on this at their own pace. I have one student that within the first week went through the entire book because he was motivated to do so, And that's what he wanted to do. And he used Flipgrid to show me his progress, and I'd give him feedback, and then he'd make another recording. And it really works to give students the comfort to be able to work at whatever pace they're at, whether it's with the class or ahead of the class. And they're excited about it. There are also some great missing the note and missing fermatas activities where they can click and drag. And there's composer information and song information. So you can ask them questions about that and see what they've read and what they remember. There are also emailable assessment pages where you can have them actually show you what skills, if regarding reading notation or remembering fingerings. They could just email that directly to you if you want to print them out or you want to just keep record of the scores. You have written documentation of their learning, which some districts, some schools, they require an actual physical written documentation. So that allows you to do that, and you can keep track of where your students are through all of these tools. So some of the content features of this program, when you're considering any online recorder program, which of course in today's age, online is the best way to do it because you can use it no matter what situation you are in. It's important to look at the safety and privacy for your students, the ease and flexibility of use for that program with your students, the ability to incorporate teaching reading music skills, and the ability to assess, and affordability. And that's another reason why I like the Be a Recorder Star program. It is accessible, it is easy for the students to go through, and it is affordable for my school district. So, just a summation of what we've talked about, the different ways that we might be doing instruction this year, that remote learning might need to take place, as if we're doing virtual only, where the entire thing is remote learning. If we are in a hybrid classroom situation where part of it is remote, for some of our students, they are home and away from us, and some of them are in person with whatever challenges that might create. And then there's also the regular classroom. And it's great that what we did today can work in any of these situations. So looking at our new New Jersey standards, this is a summary of the visual and performing arts standards from 2020 that were created, and they follow these four main categories: creating, performing, responding, and connecting. And with our recorder instruction, we can have creating take place in our classroom. The students can imagine what they're going to do to create a melody using the pitches that they have. They have to plan it, especially when you give them some restrictions like begin and end on the note G, and they make it. They then listen to it, they evaluate it, they decide if they want it that way, they refine it themselves, they create a recording for you. That leads into performing. Now, performing is the easiest one for us to do in music because most of what we've always done is related to performing. But even with their compositions, they can rehearse, evaluate, and refine. They could select, analyze, and interpret their own work, and they can present it through Flipgrid. You can also take the regular songs in the book, and you can do the same thing. They can work on them step by step, and they can come up with a final presentation, which they do through Flipgrid for you. Students also will be responding to pieces. We talked about how we can we can analyze our songs through figuring out the phrase form of it, or analyze what we see to figure out what is it that this animation is doing correctly or needs to fix. We can evaluate what those things are, and then we can interpret them. We can interpret what we see, we can interpret what we hear, and then connecting. All those little eyes all throughout the book that give you information about composers and pieces of music. They can connect to things in history. You can connect them to other things like their math class and their English class, whatever subjects they're working on. So you can hit all four parts of our new standards through recorder instruction and through remote recorder instruction, working with them through virtual, hybrid, or even in person, which hopefully we will all return to at some point, means. So thank you so much for attending this session today. If you have any questions, I'm here to help. You can contact me or you can contact Macy Publishing with whatever questions you have, and we'll be happy to get back to you. So I hope you all have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of your conference.